All right, welcome to Culture Couch Live this week. Hello, Carly, Mel, and Adam. How are we all? Good?
Hi, Ruzi.
Well,
Hi,
thank
Adam.
you,
Hi,
Paul.
Mel.
Excellent. Good to see you all. Now, we've got a question, and like I normally do, I sort of paraphrase. Take it quite long. It's more of a story around the culture of their organisation. So I won't read the story out. I'll just paraphrase from Janine. And basically what Janine's saying is there's probably a couple of things that she wants us to unpack. Who's responsible for accountability, which I thought was actually it's quite a big company that she's with. So she's sort of asking, am I responsible, or is it the CEO or whatever? And the other question is, a bit like that weight of numbers. And we talk about it as well. Are you an energy giver or an energy taker? There's a number of people in the organisation, and every time a meeting is on, that they just suck the energy out of the room and bring everyone down. And she sort of says that she's not even sure whether they're aware of, but I guess it gets back to the accountability model. So I just thought it was a really good discussion piece that she sent in just to read. So I want to turn it into a question if everyone's happy with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Right. Head nodding.
Yes.
So if you want to, again, take which part of it you want rather than asking you a direct question. But Carly, do you want to pick up on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting because I've actually seen that situation in a session that I've run a couple of weeks back, and the glass half empty and the glass half full mentality is actually really powerful for teams. And the people who have a more negative mindset, I don't think they realize necessarily that they're in that space, and I don't think they also realize the vibe that it gives off. But even one person with that, negative mindset actually really permeates throughout the team, and you can feel it. So I think it's a really good point, Ruzi, because we talk a lot about leadership and even the art of giving and receiving feedback, and that we need to start it from a place of positive intent, and that we need to give the feedback in a way that someone's going to hear it, and that needs to be in that more positive frame of mind. So I think making the person understand the impact they're having is important, and that's probably done through the process of feedback or real talk, just for them to understand the impact. But that's what I love about our sessions, because this particular session, we got to the end and I always ask the team to take on board all the content that we've talked about and to really think about what they can do as individuals and what commitment they will make for the team. And this one person said, my commitment to the team is that I'm going to try really hard to be more positive and to fix my attitude. So without even pointing it out or discussing it or whatever, it became apparent through the session that was something that they needed to work on and took ownership for. And I think that shift is going to be so powerful for the team, because it really does have that big impact.
And what I was going to say, Adam, is it probably does come back to the system, doesn't it? Like, we can't really tell that person they're being negative unless we've got a really clear culture code, a really clear system of accountability. So maybe talk to the accountability piece, because you've been in a high pressure environment with big personalities, et cetera, et cetera. Talk to us about the accountability. How do we set that accountability? And to the first part of the conversation is, whose responsibility is the accountability to say to that person, gee, you've been a bit negative today, because that's a huge part of really everything we do, isn't it?
Absolutely. So the leadership is responsible. Let me start there. You have to own it. It's incumbent on the role and the responsibility. So you have to start with the leadership. Then acknowledge too that no matter where you are in an organization, you lead your own life. So everyone can have the conversation. Yeah. Leaders have to. Yeah. And then in terms of the culture code, I think it's an essential. Yeah. It's as simple as that. Having, walked into a number of companies as a new employee and tried to work out how to fit in, and where there wasn't a code and where there was, I can tell you, even if you didn't form part of a code, the fact that you can read it and it's articulated is instrumental in being able to talk about it in the first place. So being self-aware, alongside that code gives you a map of what the expectation is, what the company expects from you, what your teammates expect from each other. And if you understand the expectation, then you've got a chance of delivering it. Then you need the feedback. You need to develop that trust with people as a new person or someone who's been in a role or with a company for a while. You've got to uphold it. It takes an investment of energy and care for each other to make it stick and make it work. And when it does, the difference is immediately apparent. Like I can imagine, Carly, in that session, you watched that trust being formed and you hope then that that system will go on and live. And I would expect that we have an ongoing engagement with that company to make sure they keep tuning up on that and keep growing it. It keeps getting better and better and better.
But I think the point there, Adam, with that is that it's the external eyes or the people who aren't there all the time that probably notice it more than the people who are there all the time. And it's not until you get those fresh eyes that you go, oh, actually, that's really noticeable.
I think one of my biggest frustrations too, Carly, is the 6-9 month review. I mean, if you want to stop accountability and if you want to stop immediate feedback, put in a system where we only give feedback every 6 or 9 months. I mean, it's just unfathomable. And you probably touched on that, but I want to go to you, Mel. How important it is to systemize our feedback. Now, you've got to get the culture code right first, and I'll take that as a given. I'll say, look, we as the company X has got performance by design in. We're really clear on our culture code. But if we want accountability, we can't wait for the 6 month, 9 month. And that just happens far too often, doesn't it?
It really does. And the reliance on reviews that everybody throughout every organization is so reluctant to do, because the bosses go, here's a week of reviews, and the employees go, I've got my review coming up, and it becomes a thing. And what we talk about is it doesn't need to be. If there's care and there's trust, then feedback can be ongoing, which is what we always talk about. And the other piece that I wanted to add to this conversation is that title is becoming less and less relevant, because leadership, no matter who you are in an organization, is absolutely possible. So you can have the highest title in an organization and not really be showing leadership traits. And you can be one of the newer members of a team and show very strong leadership traits. And a part of that is attitudinal as well. So coming back to the point around whether you are a negative force in a room or a positive force in a room, irrespective of where you sit within an organization from a title perspective, that is incumbent on you to bring the right energy into the room. And if you're not aware of it, get the feedback from your team and ask if somebody's really down and bringing an energy in that's not great. Are you all right, mate? Is something going on? Because I can see that this is what you're bringing into the room, and bring it out in that feedback loop. So systemizing is absolutely essential, and creating that safety around it.
And I think we've also got to get away when we talk about feedback or real talk. It's not negative all the time. And I think that's a perception we've got to change as well, Adam. And I think you made a good point about whatever the leader sets. So if we talk about accountability and that sort of energy sucking person of the half glass full, but if the leader's always positive, not always, but majority, thanks, Carly, well done for turning up on time. Fantastic yesterday meeting, Adam, great. Awesome the other day, the way you delivered that presentation. What's the message that's sending to that negative person? It's, gee, I don't think I'm going to fit in at this company, because we've got a really positive environment. I think that's a big part of it as well. We've got to stop thinking about all our review process and all our real talk and all our feedback is negative, because the data's telling us that's not right, Carly, isn't it?
Yeah, and to that point, people really hesitate when you say feedback. So, we'll go into a session and say, right, now we're going to do 2 hours of feedback. And you can see everyone's face goes, oh. Yeah. But I think the thing about that, and the proof point for you, to your point, Ruzi, is that once they do it and we say, right, why do I love working with you, and what are some areas you can improve on? You get to the end of that session and everyone is really buoyant, and they say, it was great. I was actually really lovely to hear what I'm doing well, because I kind of assumed, but no one ever told me. And that's actually the thing they take out of it most.
100%. Adam, it's amazing, isn't it? I think Carly made a great point that we start the session, feedback. People go, oh, what are they going to say about me? What are they going to say about me? And then all of a sudden, majority of it is positive. People glow at the end of the session, don't they? And they get really excited because often that leadership group doesn't get a lot of feedback.
It's so true. I think establishing the culture code ends up being such a powerful tool because of that. So even in the people that are negative, there's usually a passionate reason why they are. Now, it's not 100% true, right, of every single person all the time, but mostly it is that they care enough to really worry about it and express it, perhaps in not the most ideal situation in the most ideal ways, but it comes for a reason, and usually they care about it. And so if you can get around that, and maybe they just haven't had much feedback, maybe they didn't even have a culture code, maybe they saw things that they worried about and thought, we're doing things wrong here, but I don't know how to say them. But the more you encourage the good out of people and develop that trust, the better you enable, well, actually, there's a way through this. And guess what? It's a really good conversation at its heart, with this culture code supporting the structure of it. So it takes a lot of the worry out of how do I possibly talk about this? Because I've got this map. It's called our culture code. We all agreed to it. We all had input into it. That's how I have a conversation. And it's not just
back to the
you're doing
accountability.
something wrong.
Yeah, it comes back to the accountability. And this is an example,
of course,
Brucey, is that I had this in another team actually, and there was someone who was being negative, and throughout the session they got really good. And the manager said to me in the last week, oh, since that session, the positive attitudes dropped off and we're back into, negative zone again. And that's then, okay, so you can't just bring performance by design back in every 5 minutes to tell this person they need to be positive. So what's the accountability mechanism there to make sure that it doesn't drop off and they keep reminding them of that, of that mindset?
The one piece just to add to that as well, because I love that, Adam's talking about it in the sense of people want improvement and enhancement of their workplace. The other thing we talk about in our program is the empowerment piece and the validation piece. And once employees feel like they are empowered to fix something or to speak up about something, then they have that remit to actually go ahead and change it. So there is a lot less of that negativity because they're then in a position where the company is empowering them to go ahead and make the positive change that they actually want. So there's other threads as well going on within that.
And this, you're right. We've had a really good discussion. We better wrap it up. But I think the biggest thing, again, ask the newest person. Ask the newest person that's come into your organisation. Do you see accountability? Are people positive? Is there psychological safety? Because we talk about it a lot, don't we? Like when you're in a organisation, it's easy to walk past stuff. It's like I always talk about. It's like watching your kids grow. When someone says, "Geez, Dylan's got bigger," you go, "Oh, really?" Because you see them every single day. Whereas if you get someone new in, you performance by design in, you're the newest person. I would really encourage everyone. Within the first 2 weeks of someone coming in your organisation, bring them in the office, sit down, and generally create a safe space for them and ask them, "What do you see about our organisation?" I think it's a really good way to keep auditing it.
Absolutely.
Love it. Excellent.
All right. Great conversation. Excellent. I was going to ask you for a tip, but this might come out after the grand final. So we'll look like gooses if we tip and teams lost and the game's already happened. But I'm going to still ask you. I'm going to hold you accountable, all right, after the event. All right. So this will be documented. Grand final.
It's a bit awkward, Rosie, given you're the ex-coach of the Sydney Swans and Adam is an avid Sydney Swans fan. I kind of feel like I need to say Sydney in this situation.
Well, if you want to keep your job, you do. But
I'll be going for the Swans. Buddy's been renewed for a year.
All right,
We're all
Swans.
got positive
What about
momentum.
Oh, gut feel Swans.
All right, Swans. Adam.
Yeah.
Oh, 100% Swans.
Well, what do you say, Rosie, as an objective onlooker?
Look, Geelong have been the best team all year because they've been on top of the ladder, and then the ladder doesn't lie. But when you get to a grand final, we know it's not like in the NBA where the grand finals played over 7 games, and over 7 games, you would think Geelong would win a 7-game series. But what happens in a grand final? We've seen it. Leo Barry drops that mark. 2005, West Coast win that game. It was a ball bounces away from Milne when St Kilda were in it. So many moments. Was it who got pushed out when West Coast kicked the goal? Maynard gets pushed in the back, et cetera, et cetera. So Geelong have been the best team because they're on top of the ladder, for a reason. But one off, I love the fact that you got these two great teams over a long period of time. We talk about culture a lot. So congratulations to both the Sydney Footy Club and the Geelong Footy Club, because over a period of time, they've done an incredible job. I was going to say, I hope it's a draw, but can't be a draw because they play extra time. But obviously I'm going for Sydney, but I just hope it's a great grand final. So good way to sign off. Have a great week, and we'll see you again next week on the Culture Couch live.